penchant for high relationship drama instead of what they really were, symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. But then the other morning, I'd been stepping into our chalet bathtub when I glimpsed myself in the mirror and paused. No, I thought. Oh no. Changes in self-perception and hallucinations. Those are some of my other symptoms. Historically, I was on good terms with mirrors, which generally told me that I was lucky for having been born with the long athletic shape that happened to be popular at the time. But now, the two big mirrors hanging on the walls to the front and side of the bathtub were saying something else. All I could see was a boy. A flat, weak, castrated, insubstantial fragment of a boy. The curve of my hips seemed medically wrong. Awful. I shouldn't be showing any of this to Nico, I thought urgently. I shouldn't be letting him see this disgusting thing. I ducked down into the tub, out of sight of the reflection, and pressed my hands into my face. You are fucking insane, I told myself. You know it's not true. Look again. I hesitated, remaining crouched, nude. Look at it again. I popped my head and chest up. No, not better. I could see breasts this time, but they were misshapen, meaningless lumps. I went about turning the water on and washing myself, careful to keep the mirrors out of my line of vision. But by the time I emerged from the bathroom, I was nearly hyperventilating, partly because I was the grossest thing I'd ever seen, but mostly because I couldn't convince myself that it wasn't true, even though I knew for a fact that it wasn't. I couldn't trust myself. I'd lost all credibility with, of all people, myself. And I'd been in rough shape already. The day before, I'd woken up incapable of believing in possibility. Can you make a coffee cake? I asked myself on days when I suspected I wasn't mentally well, when everything in my being responded no, though everyone knows my blueberry coffee cake is delicious. I knew I wasn't stable and shouldn't listen to anything else I said. After the bath, I turned shameful and cold. When I walked into our bedroom, Nico told me I was gorgeous, and I yelled that he was a liar. Started screaming when he tried to touch me, pulling clothes on spastically, strangled by tears. Hurled myself around the kitchen, fuming that we'd let a baguette go stale. I knew that one thing that would help alleviate the grief and fury suddenly charging through my veins was opening up my mouth and throat and screaming and screaming. But I wasn't going to do that in front of another person. As usual, I considered how effective it would be to do myself harm, open my skin up or shatter a bone perhaps, get a real crisis on my hands. The kind of crisis people I met the world round were uniformly impressed I took in such stride. But even when I was alone, I acknowledged that that was a line I wasn't supposed to cross. Doctor's orders, and if I did it in Nico's presence, he might have me committed. Half a liter of Johnny Walker would have done the trick too, but I didn't consider that, because I didn't have any, and because it was 9 a.m., so Nico would be alarmed. Compared with these, crying was the best option. I let it overtake me and flush out, and after I sobbed for hours, I sat and exhausted Nico down. I know I've been telling you this the whole time we've been together, I said, but now you can see what I mean. Sometimes I can't experience emotion when I go into self-defensive shutdown, and when I can, it often looks like this. I told him how unpredictable and nonsensical the PTSD triggers could be. How a month ago on a subway platform, I'd become engulfed by a rage so strong I couldn't take it standing still, honestly fearing that if I hadn't started running up and down the platform, my arms would take hold of my left leg and rip it out of my pelvic bone as the first step of my body's tearing itself to pieces. Just because I missed a train, even though the next train was coming in 17 minutes. I told him how when I was in Congo, I interviewed people who swore to me that if I didn't help them, they would be murdered, and my translator was